this is a game where everybody is expecting the Detroit Lions to feast. Everybody. And the area of strength, I guess, it feels so weird to say because it's the Jaguars.
It's a strength.
All of their, it's okay, but it's a strength that's running up against Penei Sewell. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like it's almost like Looney Tunes type stuff for this game, and I do kind of expect similar that we saw in the Titans game to kind of play itself out here in this game. But we do have to talk about it, and I know that you're gonna probably convince me a little bit more that I should give this matchup a little bit more respect. But the Lions offensive tackles versus Jaguars edge rushers, Trayvon Walker, Josh Hines, Allen, who has that edge? And we got to be fair. Because last week, the offensive line, it did not necessarily look the best.
Yes, but it looks like Taylor Decker's coming back, which is huge. But for the record, Taylor Decker hasn't had his best season either, but it's still a lot better than what Dan Skipper can give you at the left tackle position, with all due respect to Dan Skipper. When you look at the Jaguars' edge rushers, they do have a really good bookend duo with Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker. And I want to play a little fun with numbers with Trayvon Walker stats, and you'll understand what I'm doing in a second. Trayvon Walker has had himself a really nice year. I know that he's been mocked by, oh my goodness, how did the Jaguars pass on Aiden Hutchinson to draft Trayvon Walker? And for the record, they should still be mocked. But Trayvon Walker is a really good player. He's turned into a more complete edge rusher, become better against the run, and is on pace to have the best season of his career. This season, 7.5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, 10 quarterback hits, 35 QB pressures. His 7.5 sacks are tied for 5th in the NFL. And one of the guys he's tied with is still Aiden Hutchinson. That's my fun with numbers I'm talking about. Trayvon Walker has the same amount of sacks despite playing twice as many games. And Aiden Hutchinson has more quarterback hits. And Aiden Hutchinson has more pressures. So we're talking about Trayvon Walker having what I believe is his breakout season. And in twice the amount of games, he's putting up worse numbers than Aiden Hutchinson was in his 5 games. But he's still really, really good. No disrespect to Trayvon Walker. It's just further proof that Aiden is top 5 in the league as far as edge rushers go. And a guy who I believe is top 10 in terms of edge rushers is Josh Hines Allen. He's not putting up the sack numbers that he did last year. Last season, he had 17.5. This year, he has 5. But in terms of being disruptive, in terms of getting to the quarterback, in terms of pressures and hits, Josh Hines Allen is the man on the Jaguars. 43 pressures is excellent. It's one of the tops in the NFL. 12 quarterback hits, 5 sacks. He's the one who gets most of the attention. Trayvon Walker, his job is to win one-on-ones and get sacks, and he's done that this year. Josh Hines Allen, he's really the man on that defensive line. I think, honestly, if you're looking at football porn in terms of a one-on-one, I would love to see some Penei Sewell versus Josh Hines Allen matchups in terms of pass protection and rushing the quarterback, because those could be some really, really interesting matchups. Where I think the Lions could potentially be a little bit vulnerable is Taylor Decker. Glad to have him back. He's a definite upgrade over Dan Skipper, but Taylor Decker, just a couple of numbers, and this doesn't mean I think Taylor Decker sucks. I know you guys are going to twist my words, but I'll just give you some numbers. Taylor Decker this season...
Flannel hates Taylor Decker. No.
Of course. Yes. Taylor Decker this season has allowed 6 sacks, which is tied for the second most he's allowed in a season in his career, despite only playing 8 games. Taylor Decker was not good really at all in that 3-game stretch from Dallas to Tennessee. He was very, very leaky. And also this season, Taylor Decker has his lowest PFF grade since 2017. That was Jim Caldwell era. It's not a bad PFF grade. He hasn't had a bad season. It's just, if I'm looking at these matchups, I expect the Jaguars to get 1 off of Taylor Decker. It wouldn't surprise me at all, whether it's Josh Allen, whether it's Josh Hines Allen, whether it's Trayvon Walker. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And let's just hope, if you're the Lions, that it's not a sack fumble, it's not like a blindside hit, and it's not something that hurts Jared Goff, because the Lions are going to win this game, no question about it. But you definitely don't want an edge rusher or a couple of edge rushers really hounding Jared Goff's life and making it hell, and maybe getting a couple of free shots at him where you risk injury.
Yeah, and you know what? When I look at this game, this is one where I'm looking at Ben Johnson in particular. I know that there were some fans who were wondering, did Houston Texans expose something with the Detroit Lions offensive line and how to attack them? And I do believe that if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's only right that you go and see what did they do so right in that first half, and whether you can disguise out the way that you're going to attack the offensive line or not, so that the Lions will see less of it on the way. That's where I do believe that if I could see this being one where the first couple of drives were like, yo, what's up with the offense? But after they kind of figure things out, you see them just punch away. And you'll start to see those edges, in my opinion, wear down as the game goes on. We already understand this offensive line has been known over the last few years underneath Dan Campbell to be one that wears out the opposing team's defensive line, no matter who the player is. I remember many matchups, and you all were telling me who we should be fearing, but this offensive line continued to make his name all the way to now. Last year, we started calling them the most elite unit on the team. But I get it. This year, there's been certain things that have left a little bit more to be desired, and that's where I'm looking at Ben Johnson to see what are you going to do to scheme, because you're exactly right. Jared Goff has to do two things. Play clean. That's the only way you can muck this up, is if he doesn't play clean or if he, knocks on wood, gets hurt. And that's where I'm wondering, we've seen other teams have to change up the way that their quarterback gets the ball away or the types of play calling to try and keep them cleaner. I'm wondering what Ben Johnson does in that regard, especially in the light of the Houston Texans game.
Of course. And there's... for the record, I think Jared Goff could not play clean and the Lions still win by double digits. But you'd like to see him individually have a bounce back game as well, and certainly not be under pressure. And Just a Fan brings this up because I bring up numbers and a lot of people just run and hide. Did you see Dave Phipp, the Lions special teams coach, talk about his encounters and opinions on PFF? You should watch and learn about the lies stats can tell. And all right, so let me respond to that, because first off, a lot of the numbers that I brought up were sacks. It had nothing to do with a PFF. Taylor Decker has allowed more than you'd like. Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen have a pretty good amount themselves. And the reason I like to bring up numbers is we've seen this season that Taylor Decker, at least for a stretch, did not quite look like himself. Looked like he may have even lost a step or two, which I'm not saying he's washed. It's just he is an older player, and left tackle's a really hard position. When you watch Trayvon Walker, when you watch Josh Hines-Allen, certainly Josh Hines-Allen dating back to even last year or his whole career, you can see that these guys can play. You can see that Josh Hines-Allen is an absolute menace. You can see that Trayvon Walker is really kind of coming into his own, starting with last year and becoming more well-rounded this season. I think it's a more powerful thing to give evidence, and not like you need your eye test and you need number evidence as well. The only reason I brought up PFF is because Taylor Decker having his lowest grade since 2017, that's something that kind of shocks you out of your seat. It's not just like, oh, it's PFF right. Grade is this year, you know?
And the numbers, they go to tell a little bit more detail about the story. I'm never going to take away anyone's experience, their own eye test. You know, we all utilize that to a certain degree, but the numbers can help you be able to better decipher and decode what might be going on and what to expect going forward, which is only smart to use as much data as you can. I'm not saying that you make that be your end-all, be-all, because obviously we saw the difference between Taylor Decker being there and Taylor Decker not being there. So, you know, clearly he's going to be our best option, but we've also seen that if we have to face some elite edge rushers, what type of day is that going to be for Taylor Decker?
He's allowed too many sacks this year. And for the record, he could really turn it around. And he is by no means having a bad year.
Right.
It's just when you see second most sacks he's allowed in a season in his entire career, despite only playing 8 games, that leads me to believe that not that it's going to cost him the game, not that it's not going to be a clear upgrade over Dan Skipper, but that don't be surprised if Josh Hines-Allen or Trayvon Walker get home for one, or maybe one each, or maybe one has 2. And it's not going to matter. It's just you hope that it's not a sack fumble. You hope that they don't hurt Jared Goff or anything like that. It's just there's not a lot to write home about when it comes to this Jacksonville Jaguars team. They're 2-8 for crying out loud. But it's also, you got to respect what the opponent does well. And The one way, and like I said, Jared Goff, I think, could throw 3 picks and they still win by double digits. And Jared Goff could get sacked 4 or 5 times and I still think they win by double digits. But if Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen goes off, that's the one thing that can really muck up the game, as you said. But who's the opposite tackle to Taylor Decker? You know how many sacks Penei Sewell has allowed this year? If you want me to get poly positive, big old goose egg. 0.0. So whoever, I think Penei Sewell will be able to neutralize whoever he's on. I said, I think him versus Josh Hines-Allen in a one-on-one, I think that's an intriguing matchup, but I still think Penei Sewell's going to get the better most of the time. And who knows if they'll even do those matchups.
That's what I'm saying, especially after last week. There was narratives of people in the first half talking about, oh, look at Penei Sewell, he's getting handled. And it's like, listen, guys, this line, it's not 100%. Penei Sewell is still doing work. And I just think that as fans of a team, again, trying to figure out how we should view this team through the lens of Super Bowl expectations, we have to be fans like that. And we have to zoom out and look. This team still did work. Obviously, the Texans are a really good team. And if you talk about anybody that's going to scheme up something, I believe that just as much as we look at the potential of like C.J. Stroud, their defense, and some of the weapons they have, their coaching staff is really freaking good. And I do believe that their run last year wasn't just because of how amazing C.J. Stroud looked, but because of the positions as well that coach put them in to succeed. And I saw a lot of that in the first half of that game. A whole lot of that, man. But this is one where it's so weird to break this down because it's one where it's just like, all right, we want to pay some attention to the different aspects of the game. But I'm glad you keep reminding the people as well. This is one where I expect the Lions to just win this one going away. Sure. But I do want to see them clean up some things. I do want to see Goff play clean, whether it affects the outcome of the game or not. You know, I do want to see this offensive line against this defensive line. So that's a unique test. They get to play up against a defensive line that's going to put a little bit of pressure on them in a game where, realistically, if they do make a mistake, it shouldn't cost them. So I want to see them sell out and really have a good game against this Jaguars defensive line.
Yes, and I forgot who it was in the chat because, obviously, Dan Skipper played last week and he had some struggles. It was Denver Blair. How many sacks did Houston get? How many sacks did Houston get on us? 0. And that's definitely a testament in some ways to, I mean, Penei Sewell didn't have his best day. Mm-hmm. Dan Skipper wasn't great, but Jared Goff, he got rid of the football. But also, it wasn't just about sacks in that game. That one fumble that was actually an interception, that was caused by pressure. That blitz by Jalen Petrie in which he jumped up and batted the ball down for an interception, that was kind of a big play made off of pressure. And how many times did Jared Goff just have to turf the ball, which is smart by him because he had no one to throw to and the defense was closing in on him. And this week, I know there's some question about it, but Trayvon Walker is definitely going to play. Josh Hines-Allen is questionable. It's an interesting bookend because it's funny how you can look at a Jacksonville Jaguars team that is so bad, but you look at their edge rushers and you're like, It's still the NFL, man. There's good players everywhere.
That's why I say it presents this unique opportunity for the offensive line to go on there and treat this almost as it is. This is going to be as real of a real-life simulation as you can get. Yeah. Because I do expect the Lions to go out there and punish the Jaguars regardless of what type of day the offensive line has. I believe that their floor is still going to be really good. And you're right. We zoom in and we look at these players and we look at the individual players. But that's what I'm saying. Like, as fans of teams, like Super Bowl expectant fans, when I zoom out, it's like, oh, dang, yeah, they didn't give up any sacks. But the trends are alarming because when you're in the playoffs and when you're playing against some of those better teams and you're looking to secure a first-round bye, that's where those things are going to really start to rear its ugly head. It's similar to the conversation with the Pistons. With Ron Holland, you hit those free throws, you win that game, you got to. But it should not cover up what can cost you long term. Yes. And that's where I'm hoping in this game they go in there and they show some good trends, because last week the bad trend that they put on paper, it could have cost them. It almost did.
But it didn't. And I love to see it. I don't think anything's going to cost the Lions this week. And there is a big reason why. Have you seen the injury report for the Jaguars? We're going to talk about that when we come back. But first,
you talking about this paragraph here?
Tell us about New Holland.